All right, so this is part 2 of my analysis reaction to How to Write a Novel 13 Steps for My Best-Selling Writer Plus Templates by the Reedsy Team. So this is part 2. So if you haven't seen part 1, you should probably go see part 1. Although I can say that part 1 and part 2 are quite different in the parts of the writing process that they talk about. So you don't have to. I would recommend to get an overview of if this article is worth your time or not. You'd probably want to watch part 1. Yes, okay. So I actually did a retake. I'm actually doing a retake right now. This is the second time I'm recording this. Reason being, the first time there were some things in there that I was not satisfied with. And actually that day I was having a bad recording day for some reason. I recorded 2 videos and I'm ending up having to re-record them. So I wasn't in the best condition or whatever it was. Anyway, we are back. Actually, I am back. You're back too, hopefully. You can have me on in the background of you doing things. You don't have to watch the screen as I read everything. If I want you to look at the screen, I will tell you to stop what you're doing and look at the screen. But at the moment, you don't have to. So, for part 1, we went through, so these are 13 steps. And boy, Reedsy, 13 steps is a lot to go over, but we're going to go over them. So for 1 through 7, it was more about coming up with a story idea, developing the characters, and choosing a setting or point of view and that sort of thing. So 1 to 7, my overall verdict for that is like maybe a 3 or so, because the order of things was a little bit weird. And if you want to know how it was weird, the order of things, meaning the order of steps, because these aren't 13 pieces of writing advice. This is 13 steps. So I'm imagining they want you to follow these in order, right? So I'm going to really make sure that this is actually the order of things. Okay, so 1 through 7 was kind of weird. And if you want to know how it was weird, you have to go watch part 1. And so we're getting into part 2, which begins with establishing a writing routine. Let's read. Having done your prep, or as much prep and planning as you feel you need, it's time to get down to business. Let's get down to business and write the thing. Getting a full draft of a novel is no easy task, but you can help yourself by setting out some goals before you start writing. Firstly, think about how you write best. Are you a morning person or an evening person? Would you write better at home or out and about in a cafe or a library, say? Do you need silence to write or musical encouragement to get the juices flowing? Are you a regular writer, chipping away at the novel day by day, or more of a weekend splurger? I'd always be wary. I don't know who this I person is, but anyway. I'd always be wary of anyone who tells you how you should be writing. Find a routine and a setup that works for you. That might not always be the obvious one. The crime writer Joe Nesbo, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, spent a while creating the perfect writing room, but discovered he couldn't write there and ended up in the cafe around the corner. You might not keep the same way of writing throughout the novel. Routines can help, but they can also become monotonous. You may need to find a way to shake things up to keep going. We're continuing on. But before we continue on, let's go over this first 2 parts here. So this is a lot of, when they talk about prepping and planning, they're talking about people who benefit from prepping and planning. So I've went over this in some other videos. Not a lot of writing advice articles talk about pantsers and planners and planters. They don't. I don't know why that they don't, because there are different, basically, I mean, there are variations. I mean, you don't have to be one or the other, but some people are. strictly pantsers or strictly planners. So I don't really know why they don't talk about the different types of people. Um, I feel like they should. It's something that I found out from other writers. I found out the word pantser. I'm like, what is that? It's writing at the seat of your pants. Oh, well, I do that because I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't know that there were different types of writing like that, and there are people like me as well. So being a pantser is not an unusual thing. There are plenty of pantsers out there. I have some writer friends on Instagram who are pantsers. I have some writer friends on Instagram who are planners. So there are different types of people, and I think they should talk about that in these articles, but they don't. So when they talk about all this prepping and planning, it sounds like they're talking about planners. So if we're talking about planners, yes, maybe you would make a schedule and routine or something like that. But if you're talking about pantsers, it might be a little bit different, and it also might be different depending on what kind of life you have. Like if you are a part-time worker, or if you're full-time working a job, or if you have a family, if you have a bunch of kids to take care of. And when I say kids, that includes pets that are like your kids. And if you have elderly parents to take care of, I mean, people have all different kinds of lives. And even just in my immediate relatives, there are so many different ways that people are living. So, it really depends on all of that. And then they give this article, they go into all these little questions about, think about how you write best. Are you a morning person or evening person? That kind of thing is not something that you'll know when you first start writing. You won't know when you can work best writing, when you can spend a lot of time on writing during the day, or where you write the best. You won't know that. You would just have to try out a bunch of different things. I think when I first started writing, I didn't even really think about that. I just would write wherever I felt the most comfortable being. So that could be, for me, it's usually a cafe, which I feel the most comfortable being, or in my room. Or, I don't know, maybe at school, maybe at the library or something, I felt pretty comfortable to be writing. I like silence when I write, but I do like noise around me. Just the sense of being amongst people, even if I'm not actually with somebody, It's just the sort of background noise of people chattering that's kind of, I don't know, somehow relaxing in a way. Anyway, so you probably wouldn't know those sort of things unless you try it. A bunch of things, especially if you're a beginner. And if you've been writing, you would know these things. You would know the answers to these questions. So, is this article not for beginners? Maybe not. So, yeah. So, anyway, we're moving on to the next part. Deadlines help here. If you're writing a 75,000 word novel, then working at a pace of 5,000 words a week will take you 15 weeks, Monday to Friday. That's 1,000 words a day. Half the pace will take twice as long. Set yourself a realistic deadline to finish the book and key points along the way. Without a deadline, the writing can end up drifting, but it needs to be realistic to avoid giving yourself a hard time. In my experience, this is written in the article, it's not me, Writing speeds vary. I tend to start quite slowly on a book and speed up towards the end. There are times when the tap is open and the words are pouring out. Make the most of those moments. There are times, too, when each extra sentence feels like torture. Don't beat yourself up here. Be kind to yourself. It's a big, demanding project you're undertaking. Speaking of self-compassion, a word on that harsh editor inside your mind. And that moves on to the next step. So I was thinking about these deadlines things. So if you're writing a 75,000 word novel, how do you know you're writing a 75,000 word novel? How do you know that at all? Because do planners, because I'm not a planner, I'm a pantser. Do planners decide how long of a novel they want to write and then start writing it? I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard that before. I'm a pantser, so I don't really know how many words my story is going to be. Typically, I'm able to write between 50K to 90K is about my sort of average novel size. I'm finding that out. When I say 90K, not necessarily that the first draft is 90K, but that the finished version, I usually seem to add about 40K words by the time I actually feel like I've finished the story. Anyway, I don't know that until I feel like I'm coming to the final few chapters. So I don't know if you're a planner, then you know in advance. I don't know about that. I've never heard that, but maybe some people do know. But the article does speak some truth here where it says writing speeds vary. That is true. So even if you do have a routine, and then you can't make it that day, that's fine. You don't have to always be a perfect everyday writer. You don't even have to write every day. It's good to keep creative juices flowing in some way, but you don't have to. Some people like to. Some people like to challenge themselves to write every day, but you don't have to. Yes, you're trying to write this book to possibly eventually publish it or post it somewhere like Wattpad or Inkit or Tapas or I don't know. There's all kinds of things out there to post your writing. But yes, I don't know where I was going with that. So anyway, we're moving on. So this is about shutting out your inner editor. The other important piece of advice is to continue writing forward. It is very easy and very tempting to go back over what you've written and give it a quick edit. Once you start down that slippery slope, you end up rewriting and reworking the same scene and never get any further forwards in the text. Okay, that was kind of hard to read and hard to understand. Anyway, I know of writers who spent months perfecting their first chapter before writing on, only to delete that beginning as the demands of the story changed. So we're stopping here before this picture. There is a picture. You don't have to look at it. It's not important. And yes, I've definitely experienced this. So there was a time when the current story that I'm rewriting, this story I'm rewriting was going to be my debut, but the first chapter just wasn't working and I kept trying to rewrite it and I was just stuck in this rewriting loop, not moving forward at all. And then there's one day I just said, you know what? Just write something and move on. So I did that. And now I'm quite far from the first chapter, which is nice. I still haven't gotten to the main bulk of the story. Oh my goodness. This rewriting has been a beast, I'm telling you. Anyway, so yeah, and I definitely know people who would write the first chapter and then keep writing it like they have to make it perfect before they move on. But no, it's okay. It's okay. The first draft can suck so bad, and that is fine. That's what editing is for. And if you can't edit it yourself, you ask a professional person, or you ask for advice on Facebook groups or other writing forums, and you just figure out the story. I think it was wasn't it a Terry Pratchett quote? Was it Terry Pratchett that said the first draft is you telling yourself the story, or was it somebody else? I can't remember. But the first draft is you telling yourself the story. And so we're reading on. The next part of the article says, the first draft of your novel isn't about perfection. It's just what I talked about. It's about getting the words down. One writer I work with calls it the vomit draft. That is disgusting. I just like to say, just write it. Just shove those words out of your noggin and get the story down. Get it out of your system. That's what I like to say. One writer I work with calls it the vomit draft. Getting everything out and onto the page. It's only once you've got a full manuscript down that you can see your ideas in context and have the capacity to edit everything properly. So as much as your inner editor might be calling you, resist. They'll have their moment in the sun later on. For now, it's about getting a complete version down that you can go on to work with and shaped. Okay, they should not have said complete version because the first draft is not complete. It's not a complete version. The first draft is just a version of the story that is in your head, and you just need to get it out on words and down on paper. That's all that you need to be doing. You just write. You just keep on it. Just keep writing and keep doing the thing. Okay, we're moving on to revising section. Revise and rewrite your first draft. I don't know why I have so much trouble with these R and W type words. Rewrite. I don't know why. What is it about these words that I have so much trouble saying? I've asked other people if they have trouble saying these words, and they're like, nah, why do you have so much trouble saying those words? And I'm like, I don't know. I just do. We're reading on. By now, you've reached the end of your first draft. We might be glossing over the hard writing part just a little here. If you want more detail and help on how to get through to the end of your draft, our How to Write a Novel course is warmly recommended. And I think there was a video clip after this section. So if you want to go to the article, I'm going to have it linked in the description as always, and you can go and check it out for yourself. So when I first saw this rewrite in a step to do, a rewrite isn't a necessary step because it's sort of like, I would say it's like the, what do you call that? Not the last straw, but like the, it's like the last thing you're ever going to do. It's like just at a moment of absolute crisis is when you might do a rewrite. You don't have to rewrite your first draft. It might happen that you might like to do that. You don't have to do that, okay? Because a rewrite is a big undertaking. I can tell you that from experience because I'm doing it right now. But let me tell you, the story I'm working on right now, the rewrite, it is a lot better now than it was before. I'm so much more, it's just so much that all the little intricate little details are connecting together, and it's just so much nicer than it was before. So that's good. Okay, we're moving on. Reaching the end of your first draft is an important milestone in the journey of a book. Sadly, for those who feel that this is the end of the story, it's actually more of a stepping stone than the finish line. In some ways, now the hard work begins. The difference between wannabe writers and those who get published can often be found in the amount of rewriting done. I don't know about that. Professional writers will go back and back over what they've written, honing what they've created until the text is as tight and taut as it is possible to be. How do you go about achieving this? The first thing to do upon finishing is to put the manuscript in a drawer. Leave it for a month or 6 weeks before you come back to it. That way, you'll return the script with a fresh pair of eyes. Read it back through and be honest about what works and what doesn't. As you read the script, think in particular about pace. Are there sections in the novel that are too fast or too slow? Avoid the trap of the saggy middle. Then consider, is your character arc complete and coherent? Look at the big picture stuff first before you tackle the smaller details. Okay, so overall, I think Reedsy is saying some very good stuff here. But But there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with. So it says the difference between wannabe writers and those who get published can often be found in the amount of rewriting done. As if to say, if you don't rewrite your work, you are not a professional writer. I don't think that's the case. Okay. So a rewrite this is what a rewrite is. They're not even saying what it is. And let me tell you exactly what it is because I'm doing it, okay? So I have a book that I'm working on. It's a young adult fantasy novel about a blue bipedal feline surviving in her world, and she is gonna go off and try to figure out how to save her race from extinction. And now, it didn't used to be that story. It used to be just a simple enemies killed my parents and sister. I'm gonna go on a revenge quest. And that's the only thing that it was about. It's still kind of about that, but it used to just be only about that. So the way the story started was that the main character, Pinty, is with her sister Tendry in a forest, and they're having a good old hunting session. That was the first chapter. A rewrite of that first chapter looks like this, completely deleting it. Yeah. So completely rewriting. A rewrite is like if you draw a picture of a cat and then you're like, nah, I don't like it. And then you completely erase it. It's a total redoing everything from start to finish. So I deleted that entire, okay, I'll be honest, I didn't actually delete the entire chapter, okay? I created another version, so I have a previous version where I still have that chapter and a new version, okay? So, but the chapter of Pinty and her sister Tendry in the forest no longer exists, okay? Because that was not the important part of the story anymore. The things that I wanted to show were like Pinty's motivations and her particular goals, her personal goals, her personal interest, what she wants, what she thinks she wants, what she feels is stopping her from getting what she wants. Those sort of things is what I wanted to show in the first chapter. Her personal struggles and all that stuff. That wasn't in the first chapter. So I thought, oh geez, I need to rewrite this. So I got rid of that forest scene with her sister to turn it more into a Pinty personal chapter. So it's really focusing in on what is important to her. And of course, her sister comes into the picture. Her sister is very, very important to her. Pinty would do anything to protect Tendry and anything to keep Tendry smiling. And that is what I wanted to show in the first chapter. And not her and her sister having a fun time, because that's not what the story is about. So that is what a complete rewrite looks like. So getting back to this article, just because I did a rewrite doesn't mean I'm more of a writer than someone who didn't do a rewrite on their story. There are some stories that I have that didn't go through complete rewrites, which are polished stories without having to go through these rewrites. So rewriting isn't something that you actually have to do, okay? What Reedsy is saying here, it does not make sense to me. I don't know why they're saying this. Do they think they are no, they don't think they are above people. But saying that if you don't do a rewrite, then you're just a wannabe writer. He's a wannabe writer. That is not true, in my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So, but it is true when they say professional writers will go back and back over what they've written, honing what they've created until the text is as tight and taut as it is possible to be. You can do this without doing a full rewrite. My novel that I'm going to be releasing this year, Between Roses, honestly, I don't know why I chose a title that has a B and a W and an R in it, which is somehow very hard for me to say. Between Roses is very hard for me to say. That's not good. But I like the title, so. Anyway, so Between Roses is a novel that is polished, which has not gone through a full rewrite. And it is as tight and taut as it can possibly be. There is nothing more to do with it, nothing more to change. There's nothing odd or strange about it. No one has said, none of my beta readers has had any issues or anything with it. So I think this is ready. Just needs to be edited, a little bit of grammar and stuff like that. But it's not less of a novel compared to my other story, which is going through a rewrite. You know? I just want to get that out there. Just to assure you, just because you don't do not every book needs to have a full rewrite. Okay, I'm going too much into this. Anyway, yeah. And then the article goes into leaving your novel for a while. I think, yes, it is good. And also, personally, after I finish writing a first draft of a novel, I am just so ready to put it away for a while. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm just exhausted dealing with this novel for like a month or 2 months or whatever. I just don't want to think about it. I want to work on something else. So I think it's a natural thing. But if you do feel like you can edit right away, then by all means, give it a go. See if you can do it. No one's stopping you. So we're moving on. It says, edit your novel closely. On that note, here are a few things you might want to keep an eye out for. Show, don't tell. Okay, here we go with show, don't tell. I might do an entire video about show, don't tell. Anyway, sometimes you just need to state something matter-of-factly in your novel. That's fine. But as much as you can, try to illustrate a point instead of just stating it. Keep in mind the words of Anton Chekhov. Don't tell me the moon is shining. Show me the glint on broken glass. The glint of light on broken glass. Reedsy, my friend, we need some examples here, but it looks like they have an article linked in the text, so maybe I'll go take a look at that, see what they say. Said is your friend. When it comes to dialogue, there can be the temptation to spice things up a bit by using tags like exclaimed, asserted, or remarked, and while there might be a time and place for these, 90% of the time, said is the best tag to use. Anything else can feel distracting or forced. Yes, okay. Stay away from purple prose. Purple prose is overly embellished language that doesn't add much to the story. It convolutes the intended message and can be a real turnoff for readers. Once you feel it's good enough for other people to lay their eyes on it, it's time to ask for feedback. Okay, and that goes into the next step. So in terms of show, don't tell, I have a lot of things to show and not tell you about show, don't tell. So there are some things that I have figured out about show, don't tell. A lot of writing articles don't exactly say what they mean by show, don't tell. A lot of writers themselves say show, don't tell, and they don't actually know what it means. And I didn't know for a long time what it meant, particularly like what exactly does it mean to show, don't tell. It's not this quote, don't tell me the moon is shining, show me the glint of light on broken glass. It doesn't tell writers, beginner writers especially, doesn't tell them anything. It does not help, in my opinion. It doesn't help. Don't do this. Said is your friend. Okay, this one, yes, I have heard that. Instead of saying, she exclaimed, he asserted, it's best to use said and then show the body language, what is a time when you would assert something? I don't know. Maybe remarked. Let's go with remarked. Or exclaimed, like, I like cats. She said, eyes bulging out of her head. I don't know. Something like that. You know, you would describe the body, physical things about the body while you say said. Although there have been times when I would use said after somebody had screamed and then be told that I should use exclaimed or screamed or yelled. So, you know, there is a time and place for these, but you don't do it too much. Like, if you do it too much, it becomes obvious that you're just trying to be a little fancy, which actually, as a reader, it's kind of jarring to keep seeing these different things. It starts to stand out, you know. But when you have said, and when I read books, I don't actually read the said. I'm just reading the dialogue. I just kind of gloss over the said. I don't even notice that it's there until I like take a moment and actually look at the words and be like, oh, they're using said a lot. But it doesn't stand out. So maybe it's best to use it. I don't know. What do you think? Stay away from purple prose. I think purple prose has its time and place to put it in. It's not like you're never going to use it ever again, but you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overuse it. Like, so I like the book A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman. I liked that book. I really did. But there were some times when he sort of over metaphored things. Like, he would mention something and then he would say it was like a this and this and this and this and that and this and that. And it's like, now I'm trying to imagine this thing that he's saying that it's like, and getting even more confused because he goes on for so long. And that's just his style. And I guess I don't particularly like it. But nothing, that didn't stop those books from becoming bestsellers, right? So I don't think stay away from purple prose, but not overdo it, maybe would be a better thing to say. So we're moving on to these feedback parts. Share it with your first readers. Writing a novel is a two-way process. There's you, the writer, and there's the intended audience, the reader. The only way that you can find out if what you've written is successful is to ask people to read and get feedback. Think about when to ask for feedback and who to ask it from. There are moments in the writing when feedback is useful and others where it gets in the way. To save time, I often ask for feedback in those 6 weeks when the script is in the drawer, though I don't look at those comments until I've read back myself first. The best people to ask for feedback are fellow writers and beta readers. They know what you're going through and will also be most likely to offer you constructive feedback. Okay. Yes. Also consider working with sensitivity readers. Well, I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know why. Also, consider working with sensitivity readers if you are writing about a place or culture outside your own. Friends and family can also be useful, but are a riskier proposition. They might be really helpful, but equally, they might just tell you it's great or terrible, neither of which is overly useful. Feedbacking as a weird word. I've never seen feedbacking used before as a word. Feedbacking works best when you can find at least a few people to read, and you can pull their comments. My rule is that if more than one person is saying the same thing, they're probably right. If only one person is saying something, then you have a judgment call to make as to whether to take those comments further, though usually you'll know in your gut whether they are right or not. Overall, the best feedback you can receive is that of a professional editor. Okay, so I made some notes on this slide. I said, how do you find them? So for some people who are very isolated in their writing realm, they don't have any friends who read. They might not even have any friends who read in the language that they've written. They might not have any writer friends or anybody around them who will be willing to read their stuff. How do you find these? How do you find readers? And the best way is to go to writing forums online. In this day and age, I feel like there's we don't really have a choice. We have to be online. So, have to have some online presence these days, no matter your age. That's sort of like the sad truth, I suppose. You can't just go out and get feedback from people because it's a big undertaking for them, especially if you've written a novel, which is like 50K to 90K words, right? It's like you're asking somebody to read, a slightly unpolished book. And it takes time to read, right? So it's a big undertaking for them. You can't just ask anybody, and not anybody will say yes to that. Although for the reader, it is kind of like getting a free book, although one that is not completely polished. Anyway, I feel like that getting feedback from people, other writers around you, is almost like if you have that privilege. But if you don't, you have to go establish yourself online you have to establish yourself online a little bit. That's kind of how it is these days. It can't be helped. That's how the world turned out. Sensitivity readers, yes, I haven't really had to use sensitivity readers. I don't even know personally, because I've never had to. I don't know personally how to go about finding sensitivity readers. I suppose you could go on Facebook and go to these Facebook writing groups and look for sensitivity readers there. I don't know, really. So, yeah, if a few people read and you can pull their comments, yes, if you have that many people, if you get that many people to read, I would say if you get 4 people to read, that's pretty good. 4 or 5 people to read would be pretty good. Yeah. So, and about beta readers, it's good to find them if you have established a social media writer presence, like on Instagram or something. So if there are people who've already been following you, or if you're following somebody who can say, oh, look, say this person is asking for beta readers, and they ask their followers. So if you follow that person and they follow you back, and then their followers follow them for, I don't know. So what I'm basically saying is that if you follow someone and they ask their followers to go see if they'd be interested in reading your book, it all be similar types of people, right? They all like similar types of things because you're connected in that sense. Is that making sense to you? I don't know. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Okay. So, yeah, you can find beta readers. I would suggest to find them through social media. Facebook is okay, but I felt that finding them through writing forums or from Instagram is more sort of personal. Like, you can trust them a little bit more than you can the people on Facebook. I feel especially if you're going to Facebook writing groups that are specialized in beta readers looking for books, because you really don't know these people. And I tried looking for beta readers through that way the first time I looked for beta readers, and it's just, I don't know, because it's different from asking for ARC readers, which is advanced reader copies, which is just right before the book publishes, you send out these books to readers sort of for free, and they read your book in advance and leave a review. So this helps with your marketing, right? Beta readers are a little bit different because they're looking at a version of your book that's a little bit more polished and a little bit more, not there yet. And so I feel like you'd want a little bit more of a personal connection with the reader. Like if you know them through somebody, or if you've talked with them personally, or connected with them a lot on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But strangers, I would keep to ARC readers. That's just my experience and opinion. Okay, so we're moving on. I should move on to professionally edit your manuscript. Once you've completed your rewrites and taken in comments from your chosen feedbackers, it's a weird word, it's time to take a deep breath and seek outside opinions. What happens next here depends on which route you want to take to market. If you want to go down the traditional publishing route, you'll probably need to get a literary agent, which we'll discuss in a moment. If you're going down the self-publishing route, you'll need to do what would be done in a traditional publishing house and take your book through the editing process. This normally happens in 3 stages. Developmental editing. I've had this done. The first of these is to work with a developmental editor who will read and critique your work primarily from a structural point of view. Copy editing, or I think copy editing and line editing are the same thing. I think. Secondly, the book must be copy edited, where an editor works more closely line by line on the script. Proofreading. Finally, usually once the script has been typeset, then the material should be professionally proofread to spot any final mistakes or errors. They're being funny. Sorry, errors. Finding such people can sound like a daunting task, but fear not, here at Reedsy we have a fantastic fleet of editors of all shapes, sizes, and experiences, so whatever your needs or requirements, we should be able to pair you with an editor to suit. Now that you've ironed on all the wrinkles of your manuscript, it's time to release it into the wild. So this professional editor thing, professional editors cost money. If you didn't know that. If you go to self-publishing route, it will cost money. If you go to traditional publishing route, you would have to get a literary agent. And the way to get a literary agent is that you have to send a query letter. And as query letters are another beast entirely on themselves. On their own, they're an entire different beast. I tried doing querying way back when. I wasn't ready to publish anything, but I thought I was. And I decided to query to literary agents. And oh my gosh, the specifics of the query letter, there are specifics of query letters. Did you know that? There are specifics of query letters. There are things you can't do and can do, and there are word counts, and then there's things like weird things that you have to do, like you have to capitalize a character's name when you mention it for the first time. I think you might have to capitalize place names, but I can't exactly remember. And there are specific ways, specific things, all kinds of specific stuff. I think this article talks about that next. I think so. Yeah, they do. In the self-publishing route, this is what I'm currently doing. So developmental editing, and sometimes though, the book doesn't need all the editing. So in a sense, you can sort of cut costs a little bit. If you think you need a developmental edit, then you go with a developmental edit. But if you don't think you need one, you don't have to get one. So, and I think this judgment is if you've had a lot of experience and if you know your story well or whatever. It's just based on experience that you can decide, okay, I actually don't need some of this editing. Developmental editing is really going through the plot and everything. So for Between Roses, there is nothing about the plot that I want to change. It feels just so tight and final. There is literally nothing I want to change about that book. I feel very confident that it's quite solid. In contrast, the book that I'm rewriting is Pinty's story was all over the place. Pinty's story, I didn't know how it was working, and I was getting mixed responses on it in the beginning anyway. So I did ask for a developmental edit on this story, and I'm so glad I did, because now I'm rewriting it after reading those comments from my editor, and it just made the story just so much better. I'm so happy with how it's going right now. I must say, I'm relieved. Not happy, just relieved. That's the truth. So this copy editing, which is also, it's the same as line editing. So I had line editing done for Between Roses, because they're just some editing things that a professional can catch that you can't catch. I think even professional editors who write their own books get professional editing done, because it's always good to have a second pair of eyes on your book. That's the thing. So after I edit, I'm going to get it proofread. And as a self-publishing author, yes, this is going to cost money again. Sometimes I just wish money would rain from the sky already. Anyway, so Reedsy, yes, they do have a whole fleet of editors, and I think they have cover artists. They have everything, formatting people, everything you need to get your book together. I've never used their services. I do have an account on Reedsy, but I've never really used their services. I just found it just so overwhelming to look through all the people that are there, all their specifics and likes and dislikes and credentials and blah and all this stuff. It's just so much. So the way I found editors was through Instagram. People I've already been interacting with just happen to be editors. Very nice people. And I find that connecting with editors or graphic designers or proofreaders or line editors or whatever through social media, because you've already been interacting with them, is like the way to go. That's what I personally feel. But if you don't mind that the person that you're interacting with is just on a professional basis and really you don't really interact with them personally, and that's fine with you, then that's fine. You just do what you want to do. Oop. I hit the mic. I wonder if you heard that. You probably hear it if I hit the mic. I try not to hit the mic. Anyway, so that's what they said for that. And this last step is publishing your novel. For those thinking about going the traditional publishing route, now is the time for you to get to work. Most trade publishers will only accept work from a literary agent, so you'll need to find a suitable literary agent to represent your work. The querying process is not always straightforward. It involves research, waiting, and often a lot of rejections until you find the right person. I was rejected by 24 agents before I found my first agent. Usually, an agent will ask to see a synopsis and the first 3 chapters. It's not always the case. Check their website for submission details. If they like what they read, they'll ask to see the whole thing. Okay, so yes, traditional publishing route, I did try with this querying business, and oh my gosh, the querying is so much. It's so much because you have to go find the literary agent. You have to make sure that they're open. They're accepting manuscript right now. You have to make sure that they like your genre, that they like the specific. People are so specific what they're looking for. You have to make sure that your novel is an exact match to their interests. I have to do a lot of research on these people, pick them out, make sure that they're open, and then you have to craft the query letter. And then I found cases where, while I'm crafting the query letter, oops, the one I was going to send to actually is not available anymore, so I need to find somebody else. I sent a query letter to 10 literary agents and got 10 rejections. I guess I'm kind of glad I did. I mean, that story that I was trying to get published, it's pretty bad. It's cringy and it will never see the light of day. Anyway, I'm never ever doing querying literary agents ever again. It's not for me. I also, if you send your stuff to a publisher, then they're going to decide everything about the book for you, so you don't get any say in anything. So that wasn't what I wanted to do, so I decided to take on the slightly daunting looking task of self-publishing. And yes, at first it's a little bit daunting, but actually, once you get down to business, it's not too bad. Let's read on. If you're self-publishing, oh, by the way, before we get into self-publishing, I just want to say that each literary agent will have a specific thing of how many pages or how much writing. Some people say up to the 1,500 word mark. Some people say the first 3 pages. Some people say the first chapter. Some people say the first 3 chapters. It depends on the person, so you really want to check exactly what they want. Some people want it to be formatted in a specific way, so you'd want to ask that if you're not sure. Okay, and that is a lot. Yes, writing is a lot. So, if you're self-publishing, you'll need to think about getting your finished manuscript to market. You'll need to get it typeset, laid out in book form, and find a cover designer. Do you want to sell printed copies or just ebooks? You'll need to work out how to work Amazon, where a lot of your sales will come from, and also how you'll market your book. For those picked up by a traditional publisher, all the editing steps discussed will take place in-house. That might sound like a smoother process, but the flip side can be less control over the process. A publisher may have the final say in the cover or the title, and lead times when the book is published are usually much longer, so it's worth thinking about which route to market works best for you. Finally, you're a published author. Congratulations. Now all you have to do is think about writing the next one, ... Okay, so if you look at the screen right now, you will see that I have a picture of my book cover is up on the screen. This is for Between Roses, and this is my book that is going to be released this year as an ebook. I can't say exactly when, because I don't really know. I don't know how people know these things in advance, but anyway, I don't really know. But my guess is autumn. I'm hoping that it will be that. So, yes, and how you will market your book. So how you market your book is probably social media is the best way to go, I would say. They have a text linked to somewhere here, so if you want to check the article, I'll have it down in the description as always, so you can check it out for yourself. I would say they'll probably tell you social media, possibly newsletters, which I don't have. It's just another thing I personally cannot be bothered with. Maybe I should be. I don't know. I personally don't like newsletters. Subscribing to newsletters. Because it just becomes a lot to me. Some people like them, some people don't. So anyway, do what you want for that. So, yes, so this is the cover for my novel Between Roses, which is about a girl, Erin, who stumbles into a chaotic, magical world, and it's haunted by a monster of madness, and she has the power to potentially destroy this monster, but she does not know how to use this power, and nobody else knows either, but time is running out. Tick tock, tick tock. Soon the monster of madness will destroy the world and take the lives of her new friends along with it. So, wonder what will happen there. You'll have to read to find out. Yeah, and even in traditional publishing, I've heard that even though everything is done in-house, the author is still made to market their book. The traditional publisher does not do any marketing. They leave it all up to the author, so the author really has to market their book for sales. So that is that. Just because it's traditional publishing doesn't mean they do everything for you. Apparently, it's not all sunshine and sparkles over there. So, that is the end of this Reedsy article. Oh my gosh, was it a long journey, wasn't it? So, final thoughts. Well, are these actually 13 steps? That's what I want to go back to. 13 steps. That means steps mean you do it in order. Do you do all these things in order? No, you don't, because that's not the way it works. So it's just because you share it with your readers once, it doesn't mean that you'll never share it with your readers again. You might want to get a second round of better readers. if you want to, you know. So, and they don't even talk about beta readers, the difference between beta readers and alpha readers. There are these things called alpha readers, which is really the raw first draft, non-edited, and the readers who can read this really raw version of your book, and give you feedback. And then you edit it, and then you send it to beta readers. So you can do that too. So they don't talk about that in this article. They make everything sound like a one-time thing, don't they? Which is not. It's not 13 steps. This is a process, but it's not like it just happens once. So that's a weird thing to call it 13 steps, in my opinion. And then there's the first 7 steps that there was kind of a weird order thing going on, like establishing a point of view after you establish your characters. I feel like those things go together. So, and then there was a thing with the show don't tell, which they don't go into anything of in this article. Maybe they just don't go into this article, but go into another article. But they should specifically say, if you want more on show don't tell, read this article instead of just linking some random text parts to another article. I feel like they should have done that. They should also say about the planning and prepping, because not everyone does this. Like, I don't do it so much because I'm a pantser. I just start writing it. I just start throwing the words onto the screen. From my brain to my fingers to the screen. It just directly goes there. And I don't do much prepping or planning. So maybe talk about that difference between planners and pantsers. Implanters would have been a good idea to do right there at that moment. And also the thing about when you write the best and that sort of thing, when you write the best, where you write the best, in a cafe or in your room or wherever, that is not something that you would know if you've never written before. So maybe they should have said something about that, or written a separate article specifically, a step-by-step article specifically for beginners, for beginning writers. Maybe they should have a separate article linked to this article, because this is definitely written in a way of someone who at least has experienced some of these things before. That's what I think. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, I will see you in another video. I actually discovered another fantasy trope video, which had some interesting things. Like, I was just looking up fantasy tropes for my own personal reason. I thought I might ask some trope related questions on Instagram or something like that. That's not going to happen, but I did find this interesting article, so I might I might go over that. Anyway, so this article, How to Write a Novel, 13 Steps from a Best-Selling Writer, a good article for writers? I don't know. Well, some of it yes, some of it no. Probably give it a 3 overall. My rating does not change from part 1 to part 2. It's okay, you know. I would say, yeah, it's okay. I mean, they could have done better, is what I'm saying. And, yeah, that's it. So if you want more content like this, which definitely is going to be happening, because I have so many more articles to go over, you can subscribe if you liked it. I hope you would like it. And what else do? You leave comments down below. It's good to leave comments on YouTube videos, because then the algorithm says, oh yay, this video got engagement because they have comments, so you want to give a comment. And if you don't know what to comment, if you don't know, why don't you say something? It's just say something random, like, I don't know. How about you say, writers and readers are all foxes, or something like that. That might be interesting to see. If you've got all the way down to this end of the video and you say writers and readers are all foxes in the comments, that might be fun. So anyway, I will see you. I will see you. No, I won't see you. You won't see me, but you will hear me in the next video. The fox is out.